Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're going to be counting down the most underrated characters in every Twisted Metal game. So let's get right into it. So the way that this list is going to work, it's not going to necessarily be in any order of which one I feel is the most underrated overall, but basically I'm going to be going into every single game in the series from Twisted Metal 1 all the way to 2012, and I'm going to be choosing, in my opinion, the most underrated vehicle from said game. Now, my one job for you guys is not only to like the video if you enjoy it, but also in the comment section below, make sure to put your most underrated vehicle of all time in the Twisted Metal series. Which one do you really enjoy playing, but everyone else seems to crap on? I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on the most underrated character in the entire series. So with that, let's jump right into Twisted Metal 1. And that is going to be Crimson Fury. This one was kind of tough to choose, to be honest with you, because Twisted Metal 1 is probably my least played game in the entire series, which is ironic because it actually was the very first one that got me into the series of games. Now, to me, most of the cars in this game feel relatively the same. There's not a whole lot of differences, except for some of them that have crazy special weapons, and the iconic characters that we know and love that have moved on to more games in the future, such as Sweet Tooth and Darkseid and Outlaw, for instance. But Crimson Fury, the reason I chose this vehicle as, in my opinion, being the most underrated car is because, yes, you hear all the time like, oh, I miss Crimson Fury, I loved Crimson Fury in TM1. However, when I actually talk to a lot of people who play Twisted Metal, almost nobody chooses this character when they play the game. And I think a big reason for that is there's a big skill gap with getting to use this character properly and to not die immediately because of their weak armor. But for me, the reason why I feel they're underrated is they are technically the fastest vehicle in the game with the best handling as well. And when I'm talking about handling, I'm talking about handling in Twisted Metal 1, so it's as good as it can be. Let's just put it at that. It's really just a lot of fun to be able to drive around, whip around corners, and just get away from the action and get away from danger whenever you feel like. Mr. Grimm is the one that comes in second place for speed and handling for sure, but I do feel Crimson Fury is that much quicker, and it just feels very good to play as. When it comes to a special weapon, one big thing that a lot of people overlook is that you can actually juggle opponents in the air with it, keeping them in place essentially. It's more of a stun lock than anything because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and I think that's one big reason why a lot of people don't like this vehicle, is they feel the special weapon just sucks because it doesn't do anything when it hits somebody. It does do a little bit of damage, a little bit more than Darkseid's, for instance, even though it kind of is the same exact special. But again, the biggest asset to it is the juggling of the opponents, keeping them in place, so you can switch between other weapons and do a whole lot of damage that way. Not only that, but his special weapon, let's be honest, it has the best sound effect in the entire game. I love this sound effect, and it's something that will stick with me to the end of time. It's just so iconic, and yeah, I love playing as Crimson Fury in TM1. I think the biggest reason he's not picked, though, is due to, again, his weak armor and his low damage of his special weapon. People just jump in the game and they're expecting a glass cannon like Mr. Grimm, and they're going to be sorely disappointed, which is a big bummer. Moving on to Twisted Metal 2, we have Roadkill. Roadkill in TM2 is a character that even I had to really warm up to understand and properly use him, and even to this day, I still don't know how to master his special weapon. But when you do get a return hit with the boomerang, it does a massive amount of damage, and I definitely think that is the main asset to this character and why he's a lot of fun to play as. Because his special weapon is a boomerang, like I stated, it shoots out straight, and then it returns back to your vehicle if it doesn't hit anything. Now, the benefit to this is you technically have two specials in one, so you can just use it as a power missile, if you will, and it does a decent amount of damage, but nothing to write home about. But again, if you don't hit somebody going straight out and it does come back to you and you hit somebody on the return, it does double the amount of damage, which is pretty devastating for Twisted Metal 2 standards. He also has really good handling and speed. I was pretty pleasantly surprised when I came back to this character for this video, and I totally forgot how good he feels to drive compared to other ones in the game. But I think he is overshadowed by other characters in the game that are a little faster or have a little even better handling than Roadkill, but for the most part, he is far from bad. And he has decent armor. He's pretty much on the medium scale of the game in terms of other characters, so if you want a fast and nimble vehicle without having to sacrifice your armor, Roadkill is probably your best bet to go with. And I think the main reason he's not picked or he's underrated, again, is because his special weapon is just way too hard to master. Not only that, but since he's the first vehicle that pops up when you get to the character selection screen, it kind of gives everybody this negative connotation in their subconscious, telling them, well, this is the first car in the game, he must be kind of like the starter vehicle, basically, where once you've gotten the hang of the game and you have other characters to choose from, you're not really going to come back to this guy. And it is kind of a bummer when that kind of happens in these games, but I definitely think that it is a massive point as to why Roadkill is pretty underrated in TM2. And moving on to Twisted Metal 3, we might see a little bit of a pattern here. It is, again, Roadkill. Roadkill in Twisted Metal 3 is actually one of my favorite characters to play as, and I do definitely think he is one of the most underrated. His special weapon, yes, it does take quite a bit of skill to get used to for its range. It's kind of hard to understand how far it's going to shoot every single time. But once you get it down, or if you're just like me and you freeze people, you run up to them and use it like a mortar and just ram them with your special, basically, it can do a ton of damage with direct hits. And not only that, but compared to other characters in the game, Roadkill has pretty decent speed and very good handling. And not only that, but he has really good armor. So it's kind of like the jack of all trades character. He's just kind of mid when you look at his special weapon taking a lot of skill to use. It's not a massive amount of damage, but compared to other characters in the game, especially if you look at like Mr. Grimm, for instance, who's way weaker of a character with, believe it or not, even a worse special in terms of its damage output, Roadkill is such a better character, and again, very underrated. I do feel that the main reason he's not picked is he's kind of top heavy, which is weird because his vehicle looks like it should be the same physics as Thumper, for instance, which is a very difficult car to flip over. But for some reason, yeah, Roadkill is very easy to topple over during battle, which is really annoying. But again, if you get the physics down in this game, you can kind of deter it without much issue, but it's just one of those things that is prevalent with this character. And also, of course, his special weapon is, again, kind of hard to master. So I understand why people don't like this character, but I definitely think he's underrated in the sense of just having a very decent special weapon if you can get it to direct hit people, having good speed and really good handling, and not bad armor to boot. Moving on to Twisted Metal 4, we have Maid. Originally, this actually was Pizza Boy on this list, and I still stand by Pizza Boy as my favorite character in this game, but I've kind of learned that a lot of people also love Pizza Boy, even if he's not necessarily like the strongest or greatest car in the game, for the regular vehicles, that is. But I figured for this list, I'm actually going to put Maid on this list because I don't hear anybody ever talking about her in a positive light. They just kind of assume she's a cruddier version of Outlaw, and they just kind of breeze past her. But I'm here to say that her special weapon is really good. It's actually kind of overpowered in some ways because not only can it zap multiple people at once, but also regens her health. So it's kind of a double whammy. It's like the best of both worlds from TM3 special from Outlaw and Small Brawl special from Outlaw. It's just kind of crazy how much health she can regen if you have multiple people around you. She also has a very small hitbox, which makes enemies miss their shots more often compared to bigger characters like, let's say, Trash Man. So I think that is a big benefit if you are more used to the game's physics and the game's control, because you can get away from danger a lot easier than some other characters can. She also has decent speed for her size and actually really good handling. It's kind of underrated, to be honest, because the handling in TM4 is really give or take. Some of them are really, really good, and some of them are like Drake Queen, which are complete trash, and it's almost unplayable with that character. So I'm glad that this character, as small and weird as her vehicle is, at least has decent handling. I think the main reasons for why she's not picked is due to her weak armor and just not understanding how strong her special can be. A lot of people don't understand that the more characters that she's zapping at once, the faster her health regens. And the fact that she can attack and do damage to multiple people with one special weapon is just outright broken in so many ways. Also, it seems that her special weapon does regen a lot quicker than other characters in this game. And if you know Twisted Metal 4, the regen rate of specials is so painstakingly slow in the vanilla version that you do notice it when playing as Maid. Moving on to the PS2 era, we have Twisted Metal Black with Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket to me is underrated because his special weapon can be used from both afar and up close, which is really cool. I also love the design of it, just wanted to say that, because the spikes coming out all around the vehicle just looks super badass. Not only that, but he has amazing speed and great handling. He is by far one of the best feeling characters in the game in terms of just driving around. He reminds me a lot of Brimstone, and that's one of my biggest assets to playing as Brimstone, even though his character kind of sucks overall because of his armor and his special weapon being really underwhelming, but not the case here with Yellow Jacket, because not only does he have really good speed and handling, but he has pretty decent armor to boot. You would think he'd be extremely weak with how flat and small his vehicle is, looking like a sports car. But no, he actually can take a punch or two and be just fine. I feel the main reasons people do not pick Yellowjacket in this game is that he's strictly just overshadowed by other fast vehicles with decent handling. And I think that the other characters in this game, I will admit, do technically have better special weapons than Yellowjacket for being fast and maybe having a weaker armor. So for instance, Spectre in TM Black is just kind of overpowered in my opinion because she's very fast, she has very good handling, honestly not that bad of armor. I would say probably the same amount of armor as Yellowjacket, but her special weapon is just insanely busted. It's so strong for being a Ghost Missile, which is a much better special than Yellowjacket's. Yes, you can do extra damage with Yellowjackets from ramming people with turbo, but it's still, in my opinion, not enough to what it should have been compared to other characters that just overshadow him. So, do I feel he's still underrated in this sense? Yes, well, entirely underrated, but it's kind of hard to say because every character in TM Black has their place and is a lot of fun to play, except for Brimstone. And moving back on the PS1, we have Twisted Metal Small Brawl with Axel. Now, I know this one's going to be kind of like, what are you talking about? Axel sucks. I know a lot of people crap on Axel in Small Brawl. Even the lead designer, David Goodrich himself, does not like Axel in this game. And I get it. It's kind of underwhelming, and I think a big reason for why people don't like him is because he's technically an unlockable character. Yes, you can unlock him on the very first level of the tournament, but it's still kind of hard to find if you don't know where to look. So, yes, he's a locked character out the beginning, and when you unlock him, it does feel like, man, this guy should not have been locked, but I get it. That being said, I do feel his special weapon is pretty decent. Now, hear me on this. Yes, I understand it's very hard to hit that first skill shot to get it to actually start doing damage. Most of the time, you're going to shoot it out. It's too slow. It's got bad tracking. It's going to hit a wall, or it's going to just not reach the person in time. And then you spin wildly, shooting random rockets that go nowhere. It's very frustrating, and it is annoying. I totally understand that, and I stand by you. However, if you can get the special weapon down to the point where you don't miss at least 90% of the time, and you can get direct hits with every single rocket that comes out of him while he's spinning, his special weapon does a really good amount of damage. I'm not lying. It does a really good amount of damage compared to other characters in the game. So I don't think his special weapon is that bad. It's just very hard to use. He has decent handling and speed as well. I think for his character and the way Axel looks, he should be a lot slower and a little bit more sluggish. And the fact that he's not is honestly pretty decent. Also, on a side note, in my opinion, I think he has one of the best designed vehicles in the game. I love the fact that he's a foosball character, basically, and he's just super funny. I've always liked the design of Axel in TM Small Brawl. It's just very creative, and I love it. I think the main reason he's not picked, kind of like I already stated, was because his special weapon is a little bit too difficult for the amount of damage that it does, making it not feel like much of a payoff. And also, he has pretty weak armor. I think that, in my opinion, the weak armor is more annoying to me than the difficulty of his special weapon, but that's just me. But overall, the fact that you can master his special weapon to use it pretty effectively and it does a decent amount of damage, he has good handling and good speed, and I love the design of the character that makes me end up having a sweet spot for him, and that's why I do feel he is pretty underrated. And coming to Twisted Metal Head-On, we have Grasshopper. Grasshopper in Twisted Metal Head-On is the first time we've seen her return since Twisted Metal 2, and I'm glad to see her back. I think that's also probably a reason she's on this list, is just I like seeing Grasshopper in a new game, or, you know, quote-unquote new game, but I just like seeing her back in the series and being able to play her in a different game that's not TM2. I think her special weapon is very easy and a lot of fun to use, and it does decent damage compared to other characters in the game. It's just really cool and a lot of fun to use. The fact that it has a green indicator show up underneath the vehicle you're aiming at to know that you're going to hit this person, you jump super high in the air and you ram them super quickly. It just looks like a lot of fun. She also has very fast speed and great handling to boot, so she's a lot of fun to drive around in Twisted Metal Head-On, which is great to see. And she is a massive upgrade over the TM2 variant. She is known, sadly, as one of the worst characters in TM2 because of her armor being absolute trash, her speed and handling not being that great, and her special weapon usually doing more damage to yourself than to opponents. But thankfully in Head-On, there really isn't any ram damage in the game, so you never have to worry about taking damage to yourself when you use her special weapon. So with that being said, I do feel the reason she's not picked normally is due to her weak armor, and just from the PTSD from Twisted Metal 2 players. But everybody else, maybe if you've never played TM2 or if you just don't remember TM2, I think Grasshopper honestly is a really good choice for a character in a tournament in Twisted Metal head-on. And coming to the final game of the series, the most recent, which is crazy to think that's over 10 years old now, but Twisted Metal 2012, we have Roadboat. Now I know, I'm eating my own words here. I have been notorious on this channel and in the Discord, and if you know me personally, that Roadboat is one of my most disliked characters in 2012. But my man Kohalo has opened my eyes and made me understand why Roadboat is actually pretty underrated and a really good character to choose in general for a tournament. Roadboat's special weapon can deal a ton of damage if you use it correctly with a bank shot. Now, I never knew that a bank shot could do double, if not triple, the amount of damage with his first version of the special weapon. I always just assumed that if it bounced off a wall or whatever, if you hit him straight on, it just did a really weak amount of damage. And the funny thing is, in 2012, for some reason, if it bounces off a wall twice, it negates the bank shot power-up, if you will. So if it bounces off a wall twice, it'll essentially do the same amount of damage as if it just hits him straight on, which again, made me always feel that it was super weak and unneeded. So I would always use his second variant of the special, which is the giant magnet on the front of the car, which I've always thought was super cool and innovative. And I love the fact that you can basically send people flying in the game or send them off a cliff or whatever to do extra damage, but it still never felt like it was strong enough for how this car felt to drive. But now that I've understood how to use the magnet special properly, you can actually ram them into walls, doing a ton of damage compared to just sending them flying. And if you pair it with mega guns, you can basically one-tap kill small vehicles like Crimson Fury, which is absolutely insane. He also has really good armor compared to other characters his size, which is good to see. And in my opinion, he's basically the true version of Roadkill in this game. I don't necessarily know why they didn't call him Roadkill and just change up the other vehicle that is actually Roadkill, but it is what it is. I think the main reason Roadboat is not picked, and this was honestly my reasons why I never picked him, is his sluggish speed and handling. I just could not get over how this car felt compared to every other vehicle in the game. There is no other vehicle, even Darkseid, who is a semi-vehicle, not even him, felt as sluggish and bad at handling as Roadboat. I don't know why they made him so slow, but if you can get past that and get used to his special weapon, and again, he has good armor, I really do think he is a decent character to play as, and he can be a lot of fun. Also, just on a side note, his vehicle design is very boring. It's a very bad design. I think it's one of the ugliest cars in the game, and I definitely think they could have went back to the drawing board for it, but hey, again, it's all subjective. That's just my opinion. But I do feel, overall, he is the most underrated character in TM 2012. So that is it. That is my list of all the most underrated vehicles from every game in the series. Let me know again in the comment section below which one you think is the most underrated character of all time. I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like to show your support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out.